Azusa Aizawa, a worn-out office worker who met an untimely demise from working herself to the brick of life, ends up being reincarnated into another world as an immortal witch. Vowing to live this life peaceful and stress-free, she spends centuries casually defeating low-level Rimurus. But oddly, before she knew it, she's became level 999 without even trying. Now known as the Witch of the Plateau, Azusa does her best to stay under the radar. But after decades of rumors spreading, even creatures connected to the Demon Lord begin seeking her out. For someone who just wanted a quiet life, things are starting to look anything but peaceful. The anime begins with Azusa working tirelessly for a corporate company, pouring her heart and soul into her job. But in the end, her hard work led her to an early death. However, fate had other plans for her. She appeared before a goddess who noticed her suffering and decided to grant Azusa a new life, one where she could finally find happiness. Azusa made a simple request. She wanted immortality and agelessness, hoping to live a slow, peaceful life at her own pace. The goddess chose to grant her kind wish and reincarnated her as an immortal. Azusa found herself in a beautiful highland where the goddess had left her a small house. Along with it, she found a knife and some money to start her new life. Excited for her fresh start, she decided to visit the nearby village. On her journey, she encountered a slime. The slime attacked her, but Azusa was unharmed. She swung her knife at it and defeated it with ease. To her surprise, the slime turned into a magic crystal. Thinking it might be useful later, she tucked the crystal away and continued her journey. But before she could make it to the village, more slimes surrounded her. Azusa quickly defeated them all, but it was clear that slimes were a common problem in this world. When she finally arrived at the village, a friendly woman approached her and offered to help. The woman led Azusa to the Adventurers Guild, where she met a receptionist named Rie. Rie greeted her warmly and explained that the village was peaceful, with slimes being the only monsters in the area. Azusa showed Rie the magic crystals she had collected, but Rie explained that she could only exchange them for money if she was registered with the guild. So, Azusa decided to register. She placed her hand on a magical platform, which revealed her status as a level 1 witch. Rie was shocked when she realized Azusa was immortal, even though her level was low. Azusa explained that she was simply lucky, and Rie accepted her story. Azusa exchanged the crystals for coins, and Rie welcomed her to the guild. Over the next few days, Azusa settled into a simple routine. She defeated 25 slimes every day, tended to her small field, and sold medicinal herbs she gathered from the forest. As the years passed, Azusa continued her routine without a care in the world. 300 years later, Azusa had become famous in the village as the Highland Witch for her help in providing medicine and stopping plagues. She had become so skilled that she could defeat slimes effortlessly, and the villagers admired her for her kindness and generosity. One day, Rie came to Azusa and told her it was time to retake her adventurer test. Azusa reluctantly agreed, but both were shocked when the results came in. Her level had reached 99, and her stats were off the charts. Azusa couldn't believe it. She had only ever killed slimes and never gone on any real adventures. Rie explained that Azusa had a special skill that doubled the XP she earned. Azusa realized that by defeating countless slimes, she had become the strongest adventurer in the world. But despite her newfound power, Azusa wasn't happy. She only wanted to live an ordinary life, and the thought of being famous didn't sit well with her. She asked Rie to keep her strength a secret, and after some hesitation, Rie agreed. Curious about her abilities, Azusa decided to test her magic. She used ice magic to freeze a small amount of water, but accidentally froze an entire waterfall. She was stunned by her own power. Azusa realized she could control both fire and ice magic, which she found helpful for her daily life. But despite her efforts to stay low-key, rumors of her strength spread. Soon, a group of adventurers arrived at her house, eager to challenge her. Azusa tried to convince them that she was just an ordinary witch who grew medicinal herbs, but the adventurers weren't fooled. They could sense her immense mana and insisted on fighting her. Azusa reluctantly agreed, but only under the condition that if she won, they would spread the word that she was just an ordinary witch. The battle began, and one of the adventurers used wind magic to create a tornado. Azusa attempted to copy the spell but ended up creating an enormous tornado, blowing the adventurers away. The villagers witnessed the chaos and quickly concluded that Azusa was far from ordinary. Azusa became frustrated and confronted Rie for breaking her promise. But before they could discuss it further, a man named Ernest revealed that he had been the one who spread the rumors about her strength. As her fame continued to grow, a dragon named Leica appeared, intent on challenging Azusa. Azusa tried to avoid the fight by offering Leica the title of the strongest, but Leica was insistent on settling things with a duel. Azusa reluctantly agreed, not wanting her home to be destroyed in the process. The two flew into the sky and Leica breathed fire at Azusa. However, Azusa countered with ice magic, freezing the flames midair. Leica tried to strike with her claws, but Azusa skillfully avoided her attacks. In the end, Azusa froze Leica's mouth, rendering her unable to continue the fight. But in her struggle, Leica accidentally destroyed Azusa's house. Angry, Azusa knocked Leica out with a single blow. She demanded that Leica pay for the damage, and Leica promised to return with the money. Azusa decided to stay in the village while her house was being repaired. But everyone already knew about her victory over the dragon. The villagers urged her to stay at the town office, and Azusa reluctantly agreed. The next morning, Leica returned to Azusa, but she couldn't recognize her in her human form. She handed Azusa the money for the repairs and asked if she could become her student. Leica admitted that their battle had made her realize how much she still had to learn. Azusa hesitated at first, unsure of how to teach someone, but Leica offered to help with her chores in exchange for training. Azusa agreed to take her on as a student, and the two began their new life together. Azusa soon realized that her house was too small for both of them. Leica offered to help her expand it and worked tirelessly to improve it. Azusa, however, worried that Leica was overworking herself and asked her to take breaks. Eventually, the house was finished, and Azusa was impressed by Leica's hard work. She praised Leica for doing an excellent job, and for the first time in centuries, Azusa felt a sense of contentment in her peaceful, ordinary life. Azusa was easily taking down a group of slimes, and Leica watched in shock. She had always believed that reaching such a high level of strength would require years of hard work. Azusa, noticing Leica's amazement, gently reminded her not to rush and take things easy. After all, they had all the time in the world. But just as they were talking, a strange girl appeared, observing them from a distance. The girl muttered to herself, saying that she would make Azusa pay the next day. Later, Leica made breakfast for them, but she ended up preparing way too much food since she wasn't used to cooking for others. Azusa, however, enjoyed it and told Leica that it was delicious. Leica, eager to help more, offered to cook every day, but Azusa suggested they take turns. Azusa also mentioned that the village wasn't very safe because its defenses were weak. If monsters attacked, it would be destroyed. She proposed creating a protective barrier around the village, which Leica thought was a great idea. Azusa agreed, realizing that she couldn't always protect the village on her own. They went to a nearby cliff where Leica showed Azusa how to set up the barrier. Together, they created a magic circle and successfully activated the barrier, freezing a thief who had been trying to steal from the village. Leica proudly told the village chief that it was all thanks to her master, Azusa, which made the chief happy. He quickly spread the word, and soon everyone was praising Azusa. But Azusa didn't want all the attention. She turned the spotlight onto Leica, praising her for the brilliant idea and introducing her as a dragon. The villagers were relieved to know that not only did they have a witch watching over them, but also a powerful dragon. The two of them were happy living together and learning from each other. But things took an unexpected turn when a girl named Falfa showed up at their door. She claimed to be Azusa's daughter. Leica was stunned, thinking there must have been some mistake. She couldn't believe that Azusa, a witch, had a daughter. But when Falfa mentioned her sister Shalsha and revealed that she had been researching Azusa, it shocked Azusa as well. Falfa further revealed that her sister wanted to kill Azusa, which left them both uneasy. Falfa joined them for cookies, and they tried to understand why Shalsha hated Azusa so much. Falfa explained that Shalsha despised Azusa for all the slimes she had killed over the years. Leica suggested that they prepare for the coming danger, and Azusa asked Falfa what kind of attacks her sister might use against her. Falfa explained that Shalsha had trained in a powerful magic called Haja magic, which was extremely effective against certain races. Azusa realized that this magic had been developed specifically to target her, making it even more dangerous. Leica pointed out that Haja magic took decades of practice to master, so Azusa asked about their ages. Falfa revealed that both she and Shalsha were around 50 years old, which surprised Azusa. They clearly weren't ordinary humans. As Azusa wondered what kind of Haja magic Shalsha might have developed, the ground suddenly began shaking. Falfa rushed out to confront her sister, and Leica immediately noticed the dark aura surrounding Shalsha. Falfa tried to stop her sister, but Shalsha insisted that she needed to get revenge for being killed by their mother. Azusa tried to explain that she couldn't have killed Shalsha, but Shalsha reminded her of the countless slimes Azusa had killed, which had created spirits from their souls. Shalsha's words made Azusa realize that she was targeting her specifically, not Leica or Falfa. Azusa tried to escape by flying away, but Shalsha countered with magic that nullified her flying ability, causing Azusa to crash to the ground. As she braced for impact, Azusa thought her life might be ending right then and there. But then, something unexpected happened. Leica transformed into her dragon form and blocked Shalsha's attack. With a powerful punch, Leica knocked Shalsha out, leaving everyone in awe. It was hard to believe that someone as powerful as Shao could be defeated so easily. Falfa explained that Azusa had been the only target of Shalsha's Haja magic, which was why it was so effective against her but useless against others. When Shalsha woke up, she tried to attack Azusa again, but she couldn't use her magic anymore. It had taken decades of preparation, and without that, she was powerless. Shalsha became depressed, saying that her entire life had been focused on this revenge. But Azusa comforted her, reminding her that she was still alive, and she still had a chance to find a new purpose in life. Falfa told Shalsha that Azusa had taken care of her when she was unconscious and treated her as a daughter. Azusa explained that, as her daughter, she couldn't just leave her behind. Shalsha reluctantly accepted that she was, in fact, Azusa's daughter. However, she still couldn't forgive Azusa for what she had done to the slimes. Falfa explained that humans and slimes were natural enemies, so the constant fighting was a part of their nature. She told Shalsha to be thankful that she was still alive, instead of holding on to her hatred. In a surprising turn of events, Azusa invited the sisters to live with her, and Shalsha agreed. It was a moment of relief for everyone. To celebrate, Leica suggested they throw a welcome party for Falfa and Shalsha. As they walked to the village to buy ingredients for the party, Azusa wondered what the sisters had been doing all this time. They revealed that they had been hunting bad slimes, transparent creatures that they killed by targeting their weak spots. That evening, Azusa showed them around the village, and they all enjoyed a warm dinner together. Azusa realized just how happy she was to have them around. She had found new friends, new family, and a sense of belonging. And for the first time in a long time, Azusa felt truly at peace. Azusa and her companions, Falfa and Shalsha, were reading a book on elven history when Azusa realized she had never met an elf before. Just as she was pondering this, there was a knock on the door. To her surprise, standing outside was a young elf named Halkara, who urgently asked for help. She explained that a powerful demon, Beelzebub, was after her. Azusa, not one for fighting, attempted to close the door, but Halkara begged her to listen. Moved by her desperation, Azusa allowed her to stay. Halkara explained that she came from a small Elden village in the province of Rant, where she made medicines from plants. Recently, she created a popular energy drink that led to the opening of a small factory. However, the demand became so overwhelming that the factory couldn't keep up. When Beelzebub drank the energy drink, it turned out to be poisonous to demons, nearly killing him. Now, he was after her for revenge. Curious, Leica asked why Beelzebub was so angry. Halkara told them about the incident, how Beelzebub drank the drink and almost died. Since then, he wanted to take revenge. After hearing her story, Azusa agreed to shelter her but made it clear she wouldn't be fighting Beelzebub. She handed Halkara a new outfit, telling her to pretend she was her second disciple, and placed a protective barrier around their house to keep them safe. The atmosphere in the house soon lightened when they sat down to enjoy their meal. Halkara, who had been living on tree nuts while running from Beelzebub, was moved to tears by the kindness of Azusa and her companions. Falfa and Shalsha quickly took to comforting her, offering food to make her feel at home. The next day, Azusa and Halkara went out to gather herbs from the forest. Azusa noticed that Halkara was focusing only on mushrooms, so she asked about it. Halkara explained that mushrooms were her specialty and she knew everything about them. They cooked the mushrooms together and Azusa found them absolutely delicious. However, Halkara suddenly started laughing uncontrollably. Azusa soon realized she had eaten a poisonous mushroom. When she asked about the side effects, Halkara explained that it caused extreme laughter and made people unusually blunt with their words. Using her magic, Azusa managed to calm Halkara down, and she apologized for her behavior, presenting more mushrooms as an apology. Despite everything, Azusa and her companions enjoyed them, laughing along with Halkara. Later that day, Azusa showed Halkara how to hunt slimes. Although Halkara tried her best, it took her several hits to defeat a single slime, much to her embarrassment. Still, Azusa was impressed by her determination. When they visited the village, Halkara's large chest became the center of attention, which made Azusa feel a little jealous. Halkara, however, reassured Azusa to be confident in herself. As they walked around, Azusa noticed a wanted poster at the Adventurers Guild. It had a 15 million gold bounty on Halkara's capture. Although the description was vague, Azusa knew it wouldn't be long before Beelzebub would track them down. Azusa immediately told Leica to take the girls to safety. Shalsha, wanting to protect Azusa, tried to argue, but Falfa gently reminded her that joining the fight would only make things harder. Leica, in her dragon form, took the girls and flew off, hoping the protective barrier Azusa had placed would keep them safe. Back at the house, Halkara drank another energy drink, saying it made her feel like she could fight all night. She even assumed Azusa had been drinking it too, but Azusa explained that she hadn't. Halkara mentioned that Beelzebub was known as the Lord of Flies, and soon they heard the buzzing of a fly nearby. It wasn't long before they realized that Beelzebub was to fly. The demon quickly shifted into her human form and explained that she'd been tracking Halkara, wanting to confirm that she was hiding at Azusa's house. Beelzebub then offered a deal. If Halkara agreed to serve her, she would spare her life. Azusa, however, wouldn't let Halkara make a deal without her permission. She stepped forward and told Beelzebub to leave. The demon challenged Azusa, asking if she was ready to fight. Azusa agreed to battle her, but when Beelzebub transformed into her full demon form, she was instantly shocked by the protective barrier Azusa had set up around the house. Beelzebub, still determined to fight, was about to strike, but she suddenly collapsed, unable to stand due to the shock from the barrier. Azusa took her inside and used recovery magic to heal her. Despite knowing Beelzebub was a demon, Azusa still felt it was the right thing to do. Beelzebub woke up and, to her surprise, realized that Azusa wasn't the enemy. She admitted that the energy drink had caused her to push herself too hard. But it wasn't the drink's fault, she simply had overdone it. Beelzebub apologized for misunderstanding Azusa and told her that the energy drink had actually become popular among demons, including the Demon King. She even suggested that Halkara should make more of it. Relieved that they had avoided a pointless fight, Azusa listened to Beelzebub's apology with understanding. Halkara, feeling conflicted, revealed she was thinking of moving her factory to Azusa's continent since her hometown had abandoned her. Being close to Azusa and her companions felt like the right choice for her. Azusa welcomed the idea, assuring Halkara that there was enough space for her. She suggested they could take turns cooking for each other, making it a new, happy arrangement. Fala and Shalsha, eager to learn more about Beelzebub, asked her questions. Beelzebub was amused and even considered adopting one of them. But Azusa quickly turned down the offer with a chuckle. Curious, Halkara asked Azusa about her romantic experiences. Azusa admitted that she had never been in a relationship. Halkara teased her, saying that at her age, Azusa probably hadn't thought about it yet. Azusa then asked Halkara how old she was, and she laughed, saying she was around 200 years old, which was still young for an elf. Later, when Fala and Shalsha told Azusa they loved her, she couldn't have been more overjoyed. It was a moment that made her realize how lucky she was to have such a wonderful family. Just as everyone settled down for breakfast, Leica interrupted with surprising news. She had to return to her homeland. Azusa, shocked, asked if everything was okay. Leica explained that her sister was getting married, and she needed to be there for the ceremony. Everyone understood, though they couldn't help but feel sad at the thought of Leica leaving. Leica invited everyone to join her at her sister's wedding, which would take place near the Rocco volcano. They traveled together on Micah's back, enjoying the beautiful scenery along the way. However, Halkara started feeling sick and had to stop for a break. After a short rest, they continued their journey and finally arrived at the volcano, where red dragons were gathering for the event. They were greeted by Leica's juniors from the girls' college, and as they walked around, Halkara accidentally stepped on a plate. A dragon, thinking she was food, grabbed her, but quickly let go when it realized its mistake. They then met Leica's parents, but her father was so loud they had to cover their ears. Leica introduced them to her elder sister, Leela, and her groom. Halkara asked how they got together, and Leela shared that they were childhood friends who decided to marry after reconnecting years later. Suddenly, the wedding was interrupted by a tribe of blue dragons from the HTH continent, known for their ruthlessness and ice magic. Their leader, Fura, declared that she was there to ruin the wedding because she was older than Leela and still single. Fura and her companions used their cold breaths to freeze everything, and the red dragons, with no choice, prepared to fight back. This scared Falfa and Shalsha, but Azusa reassured them, promising she would handle it. Azusa called for Halkara, who pretended to be dead to avoid being caught, but a dragon nearly stepped on her, forcing her to get up. Azusa quickly grabbed the group, and they ran, but they were attacked by a dragon that tried to freeze them. Azusa used her fire magic to counter the attack, while Leica faced off with Fura. Azusa hesitated to interfere, thinking of herself as an outsider, but when a dragon attacked her, she had no choice but to fight back. She kicked the dragon's head, knocking it out and telling Halkara to take the children to safety while she prepared to protect her family. Azusa flew into the sky, unleashing powerful fire magic that caught everyone's attention. The blue dragons surrounded her and attacked all at once, but she held them off with her flames. She defeated them one by one, and the red dragons realized how powerful she was. Fura, shocked, wondered how a human could defeat dragons with just physical attacks. Azusa explained it was all about consistency. She kicked Fura, who countered with an ice attack, but Azusa realized that Fura only had one move. Using her fire magic, Azusa overpowered Fura, kicking her from above and sending her crashing to the ground. The remaining blue dragons, terrified, fled. Leica lifted Azusa into the air, and the red dragons began chanting her name. However, Azusa warned that it wasn't over yet, as another group of blue dragons was heading towards the volcano. As they traveled, Leica expressed her wish for her sister to have a peaceful wedding, and Azusa reassured her that everything would be fine. When they reached the volcano, they saw the blue dragons trapped in a magic circle, their magic being drained. Beelzebub appeared, explaining that she was there to enjoy the hot springs but had trapped the blue dragons for causing trouble. Azusa was impressed that Beelzebub had taken down 5 blue dragons, but Beelzebub, a high-ranking demon, said it was no big deal for her. She wondered if Azusa could defeat her in a fair fight. But instead of fighting, Beelzebub hugged Azusa, showing no interest in battling her. Azusa asked Fura to change into her human form for negotiations, and she reluctantly agreed. Leica told Fura the amount she owed for the damages caused by her attack. Fura was shocked by the cost, but Leica made it clear that if she didn't pay, she would have to stay there forever. Fura reluctantly agreed. Azusa suggested a peace treaty between the blue and red dragons to prevent future conflicts, but Fura insisted that harassing the red dragons was her life's purpose. Azusa threatened to detain her if she refused, and Fura finally accepted the treaty. Beelzebub and Azusa would serve as witnesses, and Beelzebub warned of serious consequences if the treaty was broken. Afterward, all the dragons turned into their human forms, and they enjoyed the rest of the wedding celebration. Everyone wished the newlywed couple well, including Fura, though Leela joked that Fura would never get married, causing Fura to curse her in return. That evening, Leica asked Azusa if she could rest her head on her lap, as her sister used to do when she felt nervous. Azusa agreed. Meanwhile, Halkara got drunk and passed out, so Beelzebub carried her to safety, warning her not to throw up. She invited everyone to stay at the hot spring resort, and they accepted. As they relaxed in the hot springs, Azusa reflected on her growing family. She realized she had 2 wonderful children in Falfa and Shalsha, and Leica and Beelzebub felt like sisters to her. However, when she talked about Halkara, she playfully called her the troublemaker, making everyone laugh. Halkara decides to swap her cooking day with Isusa, and everyone assumes she's moving out. The entire town is saddened by the thought of losing her, and they throw a big farewell party. But Halkara surprises them all when she explains that she's not leaving, she's just looking for a new place to build her factory. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief, and the mood lightens. Later that evening, Halkara returns home looking drained. Azusa, concerned, warns her not to push herself too hard. Halkara assures her that she'll be fine after drinking an energy drink. Azusa, still worried, tells her to return home before sunset. But Halkara mentions that her factory is haunted by a ghost, and the locals are too afraid to work there, forcing her to handle everything herself. Shalsha, who's with them, suggests that the ghost might be a balanced spirit, staying in the place where it died. Halkara asks Azusa if she could get rid of the ghost, but Azusa hesitates, admitting that she's not good at dealing with spirits. Desperate, Halkara begs Azusa for help, saying that she'll be forced to run the entire factory by herself if the ghost doesn't leave. After much persuasion, Azusa reluctantly agrees, but only if her helper, Beelzebub, accompanies them. Azusa uses her summoning magic to call Beelzebub, but things don't go as planned. Her chant goes awry, and Beelzebub lands in a cold water tub. Annoyed, Beelzebub demands to know why she was summoned. The group explains the situation, and Beelzebub, irritated by being called for such a simple task, reluctantly agrees to help after being reassured by Falfa and Shalsha that they trust her abilities. However, Beelzebub is frustrated that the ghost only appears at night. She grumbles that they should have waited until evening to summon her. That evening, the group heads to the factory. Beelzebub, now appearing confident, reassures Azusa that she's the right person for the job. But Azusa and Halkara, still nervous, grab each other's hands, forming a chain of support. Beelzebub asks Halkara where the ghost usually appears, and she leads them to a room. But once they're inside, Azusa and Halkara are too scared to enter, wondering if they can skip this room altogether. Beelzebub, however, drags them inside and finally confronts the ghost. The ghost is named Rosalie, and after some struggle, Beelzebub captures her. Halkara asks why she's haunting the factory, and Rosalie's tragic story unfolds. She explains that hundreds of years ago, she was about to be married off to a noble family. She believed she was chosen for her beauty and good manners, but she later learned that her parents had sold her to another family. Rosalie's bitterness had been festering for centuries, and now she claims the factory as her own. Halkara, a bit skeptical about Rosalie's manners, asks if she was really that well-mannered. Rosalie admits she was, but being a ghost for so long had changed her. Azusa wonders what to do next, and Beelzebub suggests erasing Rosalie from existence. However, Azusa disagrees, thinking that isn't the right solution. Halkara suggests that Rosalie just move out, but the ghost replies that she's tried, but it hasn't worked. That's when Beelzebub comes up with a solution. Rosalie could leave the factory if she occupies the body of a living human. However, she needs to possess someone who lacks willpower. Naturally, they all agree that Halkara is the ideal candidate, so they tie her to a chair and prepare for the possession. Rosalie successfully enters Halkara's body, and Azusa, wanting to help Rosalie, invites her to stay with them, hoping she'll find peace. Rosalie is overjoyed, calling Azusa her older sister and swearing to protect her, even if it means sacrificing herself. Azusa reminds her that she's already dead. Back at their house, Rosalie tries to leave Halkara's body, but she's unable to do so. She asks Beelzebub for help, and Leica wonders if having two souls inside one body could harm Halkara. Beelzebub warns that it could lead to Halkara's death, but Rosalie insists that she doesn't want to harm her. In desperation, Rosalie tries to take her own life, but Azusa quickly stops her, knowing it would also end Halkara's life. The group then gathers to brainstorm a solution. Leica suggests swirling Rosalie, thinking it might work the same way it does when cookies get stuck in a jar. So, Azusa swirls Rosalie, throwing her into the air, but it doesn't work. Leica, not giving up, suggests hitting the jar from behind, so Shalsha strikes Halkara, but it only hurts her. Leica, now frustrated, decides to break the box as a last resort. But Beelzebub is ready to take drastic action, preparing to kill Halkara. Just in time, Azusa stops her. Falfa, trying to lighten the mood, suggests surprising Rosalie by taking her high into the sky and letting her fall. They do this, but it still doesn't work. After many failed attempts, they decide to try getting Rosalie some booze, hoping that Halkara will take over her body once she falls asleep. This plan finally succeeds. Halkara returns to her body, confused about how she got there. Now, they try one final solution, throwing Halkara into cold water. This finally forces Rosalie out of Halkara's body. Rosalie, now freed, apologizes for all the trouble she's caused. Halkara worries that the factory workers won't come back, but Azusa quickly comes up with a new plan. They present Rosalie to the town as a friendly ghost who helps everyone with her powers. The town accepts her, and Rosalie is finally happy to make new friends and find peace, knowing she has a place to belong once more. Beelzebub congratulated Azusa, telling her she had been awarded the Demon Medal of Honor. This prestigious award was given to individuals who were loved by demons and had made significant contributions to society. Beelzebub said Azusa deserved it for stopping the war between the red and blue dragons. Everyone was thrilled by the news, though Azusa seemed uninterested. But seeing how excited everyone was, she decided to accept the award. Beelzebub explained that the ceremony would take place in 3 weeks, and she would pick them up before it started. Azusa asked where the ceremony would be held, and Beelzebub revealed it would take place in demon territory, which shocked everyone. She reassured them that they didn't have to worry because the demons had changed and wouldn't harm anyone as long as they showed proper manners. The group worried about Halkara, who didn't know how to behave at such an event. She tried to avoid going, but Shalsha explained that skipping it would be a huge insult to the demons. Rosalie wondered if she would be invited as a ghost, but Azusa assured her she was part of the family and would join them. They realized they'd need a new dress for Rosalie, but she explained that she couldn't change clothes since she was a ghost. Azusa wondered if there was a shop for ghosts, but Halkara said no one would make clothes for ghosts because they didn't have money. Shalsha then revealed that she had recently made friends with a researcher who knew a lot about ghosts, so they all went to see him. He explained that ghosts were stuck in the clothes they wore when they died because those clothes were tied to their memories. Rosalie considered giving up, but Azusa remembered her special ability, which allowed her to create magic. Azusa spent the whole night trying to create a dress for Rosalie. After several failed attempts, she finally succeeded in making a beautiful dress, and everyone was delighted to see Rosalie wearing it. Beelzebub soon arrived with a leviathan, which flew through the sky and even had a building on its back. She showed them to their guest room, which had a large bath, where they met another leviathan named Vonia. Beelzebub ordered Vonia to return to work, explaining that the bathwater was good for their skin, but would melt them if they stayed in it too long. Vonia introduced herself to the group, mentioning that the leviathan they were riding on was her elder sister, Fatla. Vonia revealed that they took turns flying and serving guests, and she had prepared food for everyone. Beelzebub told them they could ask Vonia for anything they needed, and Azusa couldn't help but feel the demons were being overly kind to them. Beelzebub told Azusa she deserved all the rewards for stopping the dragon war, and that her name would go down in history. After a delicious meal, they all took a warm bath. That night, while everyone else was asleep, Rosalie admired the beautiful sky. Halkara woke up and, wanting to take a bath, accidentally wandered into the wrong room. Rosalie thanked Halkara for building the factory, as it allowed her to leave the place where she died. She said she missed seeing such beautiful sights. Halkara smiled, saying they were all family and there were no favors between them. Rosalie was touched by this, feeling truly part of the family. The next morning, everyone wondered where Halkara was. They worried she had stayed in the bath too long, but it turned out she had simply fallen out of bed. Beelzebub then showed them the royal capital, explaining that they would first have an audience with the Demon King. She mentioned that the ceremony would take place the next day, and everyone was nervous about meeting the Demon King. On their way, Beelzebub told them about the different demon tribes, explaining that some looked like humans while others resembled beasts. Azusa wondered if meeting the Demon King was really necessary, and Beelzebub explained that he would be the one to give her the award, so it was better to meet him before the ceremony. Leica and Halkara were afraid of making a mistake and suffering severe consequences, but Beelzebub grew angry and warned them that if they insulted her king, she would kill them herself. The castle was designed like a maze to confuse anyone trying to invade, and when they reached the throne room, they were greeted by a girl named Pecora. Halkara, thinking she was in the way, told her to move aside. But Pecora explained that she wasn't there to meet them from a higher place, she had come down to meet them in person. The group was surprised when Pecora revealed that the throne was empty. Beelzebub then revealed that the Demon King was standing before them. Pecora explained that she didn't like greeting people from a higher place and had come down to meet them instead. Halkara quickly apologized, but in her haste to lift her head, she accidentally knocked Pecora out. The group freaked out, and Halkara was arrested for her mistake. Azusa learned that according to the law, Halkara might be executed, and if things got worse, her whole village could be destroyed. Everyone was scared that they might meet the same fate, but Azusa remembered what Beelzebub had said. They would be spared if the Demon King pardoned them. After waking up, Rosalie emerged from the wall and told Azusa there were herbs in the garden, but they didn't know how to get them. Leica, always helpful, volunteered to go and retrieve them. She transformed into her small dragon form, and Azusa couldn't help but think how cute she looked in that shape. Leica quickly returned with the herbs, and Azusa prepared a potion. She explained that it was bitter but powerful, and it would help wake Pecora up. The next challenge was figuring out how to reach Pecora's room, but Vonia suddenly appeared, saying Beelzebub had sent her to help. She handed them a map and an outfit that would allow Azusa to enter the doctor's room without raising suspicion. With everything in chaos, no one would notice her identity, Vonia promised. She also offered to guide Azusa through the rest of the journey. On their way, Azusa felt nervous. She knew that if they were caught, they'd both be in serious trouble, but Vonia reassured her that she had no choice. Beelzebub had given her the order to help, so she had to obey. As they neared the Demon King's room, they were stopped by guards who recognized Azusa. They demanded to know her name, since they knew the real doctor. In a panic, Vonia started to fret, and Azusa had no choice but to reveal her identity. Beelzebub played clueless, but the guards didn't fall for it. They captured Vonia and tried to attack Azusa, but Azusa wasn't about to back down. She had to protect her family, and she wasn't afraid to fight for them. In an instant, she wiped out the guards who attacked her. She told them she needed to see the Demon King, but their leader ordered the guards to stop her with magic. The combined ice magic from the guards couldn't even scratch her. Azusa easily destroyed their attacks and took out the remaining guards. For a moment, she paused and wondered if she had gone too far, but Beelzebub assured her that when she meant business, she could destroy an entire country. They finally entered the Demon King's room, and Azusa tried to give Pecora the healing potion. However, Pecora suddenly woke up, sensing trouble in the air. She immediately asked what Azusa was trying to feed her, and Azusa quickly explained that it was just a healing potion meant to wake her up. But Pecora was suspicious, claiming it looked like poison. She drew her weapon and challenged Azusa to a duel to prove her innocence. If Azusa won without killing her, it would show that she was telling the truth. If she lost, it would be the end for them all. Pecora's eyes glinted with seriousness as she added that this fight wasn't just for show, their lives were on the line. Without warning, Pecora attacked, but Azusa managed to dodge. Pecora was surprised by her speed and skill, noting that Azusa was a level 99 witch. Azusa realized that her hat had been cut during the attack, and she quickly adapted, avoiding Pecora's blows while keeping her cool. Pecora was puzzled by Azusa's defensive stance. She pressed Azusa, asking why she wasn't attacking, reminding her that Halkara's life was in danger. Azusa's response was firm and unyielding. "When it comes to protecting my family, I won't hesitate," she said. With that, she got serious and landed a punch on Pecora, who blocked it with her sword. But the impact was so powerful that Pecora's sword flew out of her hand and she was pushed back. The battle seemed to be over, but Pecora wasn't ready to give up. She believed she could still fight, but Azusa calmly told her that her sword had been destroyed. Pecora was stunned, but before she could say anything, her sword shattered into pieces. Azusa then pleaded with her to spare Halkara's life. To her surprise, Pecora called her big sis, admitting that the whole fight had been a test. Pecora had been looking for someone stronger than herself, someone she could respect and admire. She had hoped to find someone she could look up to. With that, Pecora freed Halkara, and in a playful mood, she asked Azusa for a kiss on the cheek, inspired by a scene from her favorite book where the elder sister kisses the younger sister. After a brief moment of hesitation, Azusa agreed. But the kiss was interrupted when Halkara and the others barged in, thinking Azusa and Pecora were a couple. Pecora was furious at Halkara for disturbing them and threatened to execute her, but Fatla, the calm voice of reason, stepped in. She told Pecora that Azusa had never kissed her before and kissed both of her daughters and hugged the rest of the family. Later, Pecora called Azusa and Leica to the stage at a ceremony, but to their surprise, she also invited Fura. Pecora ordered Azusa to stroke Fura's horns, a gesture that meant submitting to her, but Azusa resisted. Pecora threatened that if Azusa didn't cooperate, she would tell Leica to do it instead. Reluctantly, Azusa agreed, and when they were done, they all returned home together, riding on Vonia's back as Fatla took care of their needs. As they made their way back, Azusa couldn't help but wonder when Fura would leave. But Fura explained that she had already submitted herself to Azusa, so she couldn't leave her. Leica, who wasn't thrilled about having two dragons around, suggested that Azusa order Fura to leave. However, Fura explained that according to dragon customs, she would need to die if she left her master. The conversation shifted when Vonia suddenly jolted as she remembered a funny joke, and Fatla accidentally spilled honey water on Azusa. Fura shielded her from the mess, but when they reached home, Azusa decided that Fura could live freely. She told Fura she could act independently, but if she needed advice, Azusa would always be there for her. Fura was moved to tears and asked Azusa to pet her head one last time. Azusa realized that Fura had a soft side she had been hiding from everyone. Fura affectionately called her mama, but just as Azusa was getting emotional, Leica appeared and grabbed Fura, telling her to stop bothering Azusa's dog. Fura explained that, as a free dragon, she had pledged herself completely to Azusa, and so their strange but heartfelt adventure continued, with Azusa now the proud protector of her family and her newfound companions. A few days later, Azusa wakes up to enjoy her morning when she hears Leica and Fura arguing over whose cookies taste better. Rosalie reveals that since Fura arrived, they've been bickering non-stop, but they're trying to settle it peacefully instead of fighting. Azusa tells them both their cookies taste great, but they insist she pick a favorite, which makes Halkara curious why they're so worked up today. Shalsha explains that dragons are carnivores and haven't had meat in a while. Just then, La appears, telling them about a wild boar outbreak in Nella Forest. The locals can't handle it, so they ask Azusa to help. While Azusa doesn't need more magic stones, La mentions that the boars don't drop stones, but they do drop meat. Leica and Fura beg her to take on the job, and Halkara jokes that they must be starving for meat. Azusa agrees, and they head to the forest while Halkara stays behind to care for the kids. Rosalie leads the way, saying they'll find 15 boars ahead. Fura eagerly rushes forward, but her clothes get stuck in the branches. She takes them off, thinking no one is around, but then spots people by the river, making her embarrassed. She gets dressed quickly, but the boars throw her clothes away, and she ends up fighting them naked. Luckily, everyone comes to her rescue, and together they defeat the boars. While cooking the meat, Beelzebub and Vania arrive, returning Fura's clothes. They explain they were investigating the boars and gathering food for the demon realm. But since the meat is already gathered, their job is easier. That evening, Leica and Fura apologize for their behavior and admit they had bet on who would sleep beside Azusa for a night. Azusa, smiling, invites them both to sleep beside her and reminds them they are all sisters. Later that night, she wakes up to find them gone. She finds them eating leftovers from the hunt. The next day, Azusa overhears two women talking about the Highland Witch, who's helping people everywhere, and realizes someone is impersonating her. Determined to teach the imposter a lesson, they set off on an investigation. Leica suggests visiting a bar to gather information. At the bar, they find the customers rude, and the bartender explains they changed their theme and now treat their customers like pigs, which has worked to their advantage. She says she knows something about the Highland Witch but will only share it if Azusa's group cooperates and treats the customers disrespectfully. Leica and Azusa agree, and their rude remarks win over the customers. The bartender finally reveals that the fake witch is in the north. When they reach the north, they find the imposter, an old lady. Azusa immediately calls her a fake and challenges her to a duel, but the woman runs off. They quickly catch her, and it turns out to be a girl named Ino, who is pretending to be an old woman. Ino apologizes for her actions, and Azusa assures her there's no harm done. Leica realizes Ino is also a witch. They go inside Ino's house, where Azusa notices some strange objects. Leica asks if she makes magic potions, and Ino shows them pills she created to relieve exhaustion, ease eye strain, and promote gut health. Azusa is impressed and suggests selling them, but Ino is hesitant. She explains that witches shouldn't advertise themselves too openly and won't do it unless someone helps her sell the products. Leica doesn't understand and asks what Ino wants, as her statements don't add up. Azusa, however, understands Ino's feelings, realizing she wants to be recognized as a genius witch, but doesn't want to deal with business. Ino admits she dreams of being famous and having a statue made of her. Azusa advises her to attract attention to achieve her goals. The next day, Ino sets up a stall at the local festival to sell her magic pills, while Leica and Fura sell their cookies. Later, Ino sends Azusa a letter thanking her for her help, saying her business is flourishing thanks to their support. Azusa was preparing breakfast when Shalsha suddenly told her that Fala had turned into a slime. At first, Azusa thought Shalsha was joking, but when she noticed that the window was closed and only the slime was there, she realized something was off. To her surprise, the slime then hugged her legs, and Azusa finally understood that it was Fala in her new form. Halkara, who had been observing, suggested that since Fala was a spirit, she might have the ability to transform into a slime. However, Shalsha was still confused and didn't know what was going on. Azusa immediately started thinking about how to reverse this transformation. But she quickly realized that creating a spell to turn Fala back into her human form wouldn't be easy. Fura, always the practical one, suggested they consult the demons for help. Azusa decided to summon Beelzebub, hoping she could find a solution. As usual, the summoning process didn't go smoothly, and Azusa ended up falling straight into a cold pool of water. Once she composed herself, Azusa told Beelzebub about Fala's transformation. Beelzebub, thinking Azusa was joking, became upset. But after Azusa showed her the slime, Beelzebub understood. She hugged Fala and confirmed that they needed to consult a slime expert to handle this. Beelzebub mentioned that there was a highly intelligent slime at the castle who might know how to help. Azusa, reassured, told everyone not to worry and headed for the castle with the group. They arrived soon after, but Beelzebub admitted she had forgotten the way to the slime's location. After wandering around, they realized that Fala had been eating the breadcrumbs they had dropped. The group then made their way back to the surface, where Pecora appeared. Pecora mischievously told Azusa that if she wanted answers, she would need to kiss her first. Azusa reluctantly agreed, and Pecora, after the kiss, suggested they check a nearby shed. There, they discovered a hidden passage that led to the slime. The slime communicated through a board with writing and explained that it couldn't help them but recommended they visit a magician slime living in Tamiana province. Azusa, now more determined than ever, thanked the slime, and the group decided to rest and continue their journey the next day. When they arrived in Tamiana province, they were greeted by a young girl who was a magician slime. The slime revealed that she had used transformation magic to change her appearance and said she could help. After examining Fala closely, the magician slime realized that Fala's sleeping position had caused her to damage a muscle, making it hard for her to maintain her human form. This led to her turning into a slime. The group asked the magician slime if she could change Fala back. But the slime explained that her magic could only work for a short time, so it wouldn't be a permanent solution. She suggested they seek the fighter slime, who had attained a human form through physical training. This fighter slime lived in a southern town called Kenley and was rumored to be a solitary fighter seeking only strength. Azusa decided to take part in the fighting tournament in Kenley to meet the fighter slime. Once they arrived, Azusa was surprised to learn that Beelzebub was also participating in the tournament. She warned Azusa to be careful, as no magic was allowed. Azusa and Beelzebub easily made their way through the competition, both reaching the semi-finals. There, Beelzebub faced off against the fighter slime. Azusa hoped the fighter slime would have the answers, but Beelzebub defeated her quickly. Beelzebub, however, promised to negotiate with the fighter slime so Azusa could continue focusing on the fight. Before the match began, Fala transformed back into her original form with Beelzebub's help. Azusa felt relieved, knowing they could now fight freely without any barriers. As the match started, Azusa tried to attack Beelzebub, who used her wings to dodge. The audience thought Beelzebub was just wearing wings and horns for style, not realizing she was actually a demon. Beelzebub, acknowledging she couldn't match Azusa's speed, decided to go for Azusa's weak spots but struggled because Azusa had so many. Azusa, meanwhile, couldn't use magic to fly and decided to wait for Beelzebub to make her move. When Beelzebub rushed into attack, Azusa swiftly grabbed her by the cheeks, revealing it was part of her plan. The two of them exchanged powerful blows, both seemingly evenly matched. Azusa, appraising Beelzebub's skills, realized how hard Beelzebub had trained for the match. She told Beelzebub that she was honored to be seen as a worthy opponent but thought Beelzebub was still too weak to defeat her. Fala, watching from the sidelines, confidently cheered for her mother, Azusa. Inspired by Fala's support, Azusa knew she had to win. As Beelzebub lunged for another attack, Azusa dodged and landed a powerful blow, knocking Beelzebub out. Azusa immediately checked on Beelzebub, concerned she was hurt. Beelzebub reassured her that she was fine, fine, but Azusa, still worried, carried her in her arms. Azusa mentioned a rematch, but Beelzebub said it would be a hassle, and she would need some time to recover. She added that Azusa's victory would cause trouble for her peaceful life since the audience had now seen her true power. Afterward, Azusa and her group went to thank the fighter slime for her help, but she was sad about losing the prize money. She asked Azusa to take her on as a martial arts student, but Azusa tried to avoid the idea. To prove her potential, the fighter slime challenged Azusa to a friendly match. As they prepared to fight, the fighter slime sensed a dark aura around Azusa, one that was only seen in those who had killed countless slimes. Terrified, the fighter slime lost consciousness. Azusa carried her back to her house. When the fighter slime woke up, she decided she no longer wanted to become Azusa's student. However, Beelzebub, who had joined them, encouraged the fighter slime to become her teacher instead. The slime, desperate, begged Beelzebub to teach her martial arts. Azusa thought it might be beneficial for Beelzebub to teach her since they would always know where to find her if Fala or anyone else turned into a slime again. After some hesitation, Beelzebub agreed, and the slime finally became her student. With a new teacher-student relationship formed, Azusa's group could breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that their slime-related troubles might soon be over. A few days later, the girls noticed a poster about a musician named Cuckoo, who was coming to their village for the first time. None of them had heard of her except for Fura, who was really into music. They decided to go to her concert, but after hearing her rock and roll style, they weren't impressed and quickly left, except for Azusa and Fura. Fura noticed that her music started off with high notes but eventually slowed down. Suddenly, Cuckoo collapsed, and at first, they thought it was part of the show. But when they realized she wasn't acting, they took her home. They gave her food, and she soon regained her strength. After a bath, they were shocked to see her without makeup. She looked like a normal girl. They asked if she passed out often, and she admitted that she did. Her music career wasn't making enough money to support her. Fura noted that only a few musicians make a lot of money, and Cuckoo revealed that she left her hometown 63 years ago, hoping for success, but her career never took off. Azusa told her to stay with them for a while and rest, but Cuckoo thought it was time to quit music and start a new life. However, when the others realized the jobs she was considering weren't respectable, Azusa asked if she still liked music. Cuckoo said she loved it, so Azusa encouraged her to stick with it a little longer because it would be a shame to give up on something she truly loved. Azusa told her that if she wanted to start a new career, she wouldn't stop her, but she invited her to stay and reconsider. To celebrate their friendship, Cuckoo tried to sing a song for them, but they found it unbearable. Fura suggested she try a different music style, but Cuckoo wasn't ready to accept her mistake. Fura then played her lute and sang a beautiful song, which everyone loved. Azusa encouraged Cuckoo to write lyrics that were easier to understand, but Cuckoo struggled, so Azusa told everyone to help her. They listened to Leica and Halkara's music, but didn't like it, though they were impressed by Falfa and Shalsha's performance. Rosalie sang a song about her experience as a ghost, which made everyone feel sad. Cuckoo realized that she had been singing about death even though she had never died, so she decided to change her music style. She even decided to stop using her stage name and go by her real name. She added all the lyrics to her next song and thanked everyone before leaving. Azusa told her to visit them anytime because their home was also hers. Fura said that even though she had no musical talent, success in their world wasn't always about talent, and Cuckoo could still make it. Just then, Beelzebub arrived, saying it was her day off and that she came to spend time with Falfa and Shalsha. She was surprised to see Cuckoo and asked her to sing. Cuckoo thought it would be a good chance to see if her new style would work. She sang for everyone, and Beelzebub loved her performance. She invited Cuckoo to perform at the next demon festival, where 20,000 people would watch her. Cuckoo freaked out and decided to practice hard, asking Azusa if she could stay a little longer. When they arrived at the Demon Kingdom, Cuckoo went to check out the venue, while the others went shopping. Azusa noticed that Cuckoo looked sad, so she asked her what was wrong. Cuckoo admitted she was nervous because the venue was huge. Azusa and Leica tried to cheer her up, but Cuckoo couldn't shake her negative thoughts. Fura reassured her that she would do fine because she was no longer the same performer. Fura and Leica had a small argument, which made Cuckoo laugh. Fura told her that she had done all she could, and now it was time for the audience to hear her song. Azusa thanked Beelzebub for her help, but Beelzebub said she just gave Cuckoo the chance, it was up to her to take it. At the festival, Cuckoo impressed everyone with her performance, and she felt it was all thanks to Azusa's family. Beelzebub told her that the festival organizers had asked her to make more appearances, and Cuckoo realized that she could now make a living from her music. Fura took Cuckoo's lute and played one of her old songs, reminding her that it was okay to go back to her rock and roll style. Fura said there was no right answer in life, and as long as Cuckoo kept trying, she would never lose. Halkara planned a fun mushroom party for everyone, but Azusa couldn't help but worry. After her last mishap with mushrooms, she was cautious about eating them. She asked Halkara if the mushrooms were safe, and Halkara reassured her, saying she had carefully chosen only the healthy ones from the forest. Azusa, feeling a bit relieved, dug in, only to find out the one she had eaten was a poison mushroom. Halkara sheepishly confessed that she had grown this particular mushroom in her room, and it had the strange effect of shrinking whoever ate it. Azusa got angry, reminding her that she'd promised they were all safe to eat. She had no idea that this mushroom was different. Azusa quickly lost consciousness, and when she woke up, she was stunned to find herself shrunk down to a child's size. Everyone was surprised, and though they thought she looked cute, Azusa was not amused. Halkara immediately apologized, assuring her that the mushroom wouldn't cause any other harm aside from shrinking her. She promised to find a way to turn Azusa back to normal. Azusa, still annoyed but willing to give Halkara a chance, hoped she could return to her old self soon. As they all gathered around her, Fura couldn't resist picking up the tiny Azusa, calling her adorable. Rosalie remarked that even though Azusa was small, her soul was just as strong as ever. Meanwhile, Falfa and Shalsha fed Azusa and tried to make her feel comfortable, even reading her a boring book to help her fall asleep. The next morning, Leica prepared breakfast for them, trying to make it fancy to suit Azusa's childlike appearance. As they sat down, Leica asked about Halkara, and it was revealed that she had locked herself in her room, desperately trying to find a way to reverse Azusa's condition. Azusa, resigned to her fate, let Leica pet her head. But Fura, jealous of Leica's attention, quickly joined in. The two of them started a playful competition to see who could pet Azusa's head the best. Azusa, overwhelmed by the attention, had to fight to grab a book, and Rosalie, noticing, helped her out. Azusa even let Rosalie comb her hair, though the piece didn't last long. Halkara entered, looking dejected, and Azusa immediately asked if she had found a solution. Unfortunately, Halkara had no good news to share, apologizing once again. Realizing there was no other choice, Azusa decided to ask the demons for help. She summoned Beelzebub, who was surprised to see her, not recognizing the tiny Azusa. After hearing her story, Beelzebub was initially amused by Azusa's new form, joking that she could stay that way forever as she was now the cutest child in the world. But Azusa teased her, threatening to tell everyone that Beelzebub had lost to a child, and that was enough to convince the demon to help her. Beelzebub agreed, saying she would find a way to restore Azusa to normal but wanted to bring Shalsha and Falfa along for the journey. Azusa, though still a little annoyed, was happy for their company. That night, they all snuggled together in bed, and the next day, Azusa stopped Beelzebub from telling Pecora about the situation. She feared things might get complicated if Pecora found out. But, as usual, Pecora had already figured it out and was waiting for them. Pecora, upon seeing Azusa, cooed over her tiny form but understood that Azusa wanted to return to normal. She had just the solution, the World Tree, a massive tree with 108 floors, where a pharmacist lived at the top. This pharmacist specialized in all sorts of potions, and Azusa's cure might be among them. But getting to the top wouldn't be easy. They would face dangerous animals on their way up. Pecora arranged for Vania to guide them to the World Tree, and though Shalsha was worried, Falfa insisted on joining, not wanting to leave her sister behind. Pecora explained that she couldn't join them as she had too much work to do, but Azusa was grateful for her help in pointing them in the right direction. The group set off, and when they finally arrived at the World Tree, Fatla and Vania looked around in awe. They had only seen it once on a school field trip, and it was much more impressive up close. Azusa was surprised to see that the World Tree wasn't a typical dungeon. Instead, they could pay coins to use lifts to travel up. As they continued their journey, Falfa pointed out that the 11th and 12th floors were home to dangerous wolves, but Azusa was skeptical. She thought the naming system for the floors was ridiculous. As they climbed, Vania brought them food and helped them navigate the tree. On the 10th floor, they made their way straight to the 11th floor, where they encountered the wolves. Azusa was initially worried, but the wolves turned out to be friendly. They weren't hostile, as they'd only encountered stronger demons that they couldn't defeat in the past, so their personalities had softened over time. They continued to use the lifts, eventually arriving at a hot spring, where they decided to take a break. Azusa, though still on edge, couldn't help but admit that the World Tree wasn't as scary as she had imagined. Vania reminded her that after the 8th station, they wouldn't have any more lifts, which frustrated Azusa, but she took a deep breath and carried on. As they climbed higher, they encountered sloths and other dangerous creatures, but Azusa was determined to reach the top. Finally, they arrived at the top floor, where they were greeted with a breathtaking view of the surrounding landscape. Azusa, with Falfa's help, took in the scenery, though Vania reminded them that they were still on a mission. They found the pharmacy at the top of the world tree, where the pharmacist greeted them. After hearing their story, the pharmacist handed them a bottle of medicine, Ino's pills. To Azusa's shock, they could have gotten this cure all along without the dangerous journey. Ino, the pharmacist, arrived just in time to deliver her medicine and asked why they hadn't just used wyverns to reach the top. Azusa, feeling a bit embarrassed, asked Pecora why she hadn't told her about the wyverns, and Pecora claimed to have no idea what she was talking about. On their way back, they rode wyverns, and Azusa couldn't help but laugh at how ridiculous the situation had been. When she finally took the medicine, she grew back to her original size, only to find that her clothes no longer fit her. Realizing that Pecora had known this would happen, Azusa decided to get back at her by making her take a bath with everyone. Pecora, embarrassed, confessed that she had never been in a public bath before. Azusa, as the older sister, decided it was her duty to punish Pecora for her prank, poking her in the head as a playful reminder. A new festival was coming to the village, and Leica was curious about what it was for. Shalsha explained that it was the village dance festival, which had been held for over 250 years. The festival was a way for people to offer the fruits of their harvest to the earth god and pray for a good harvest the following year. It lasted for 2 days, with celebrations on both the eve and the day of the festival. Leica asked if Azusa would participate, and Azusa admitted she didn't want to stand out. But seeing how excited her family was, she decided to join in. Azusa realized Halkara could make drinks and Leica could cook food, so she decided to open a cafe called the Witch's House on the festival's eve. Their uniforms soon arrived, and everyone looked great in them, except Halkara, whose uniform was too tight because of her large chest. Rosalie joked that she was lucky she didn't have to wear one, but Azusa used her magic to make a special dress for her. They all brainstormed menu ideas for their cafe, but Azusa found them a bit too extreme, so she decided to finalize the menu herself. After that, they decorated the cafe, and Natalie looked forward to visiting their shop at the festival. They handed out pamphlets in the village, hoping people would show up. But Azusa reminded them that even if they didn't, the most important thing was that they had fun. The next morning, Azusa woke up to find a large crowd outside their cafe, which surprised her. People had come from other villages too. Since they arrived so early, the team decided to open the cafe an hour earlier. The customers loved the cafe and enjoyed spending time there, impressed by how beautiful everyone looked in their uniforms. Fura, feeling a little jealous of the attention Leica was getting, tried to impress the customers by carrying multiple dishes at once, but she lost her balance, and Rosalie quickly used her magic to place all the dishes safely on the tables. Everyone was amazed by her service, and the customers seemed to enjoy both the food and the atmosphere. Azusa encouraged everyone to keep up the good work. Shalsha got tired after standing for so long, so Azusa asked her to sit at the register. She couldn't believe how successful their cafe was. Just then, Beelzebub arrived, praising their cafe. Azusa teased her, asking if she had nothing else to do. But Beelzebub said she'd come because she heard about it and was curious why Azusa hadn't invited her. Azusa asked if Beelzebub wanted to help, but Beelzebub, being a demon, reminded Azusa not to casually ask for favors. However, she went through the back door and returned wearing a waitress uniform, instantly grabbing everyone's attention with her regal and dignified presence. Pecora also showed up and began helping them, which surprised Azusa since it wasn't a job suited for a demon king. Azusa guessed that since Pecora was there, Vania and Fatla must also be helping in the kitchen, which turned out to be true. The fighter slime appeared next, seeing Beelzebub in uniform and thinking it was part of her training. She decided to pitch in as well. Ino arrived with samples of her new supplements, and soon Cuckoo joined, entertaining the crowd with Fura's help. Azusa looked around, feeling like things were getting out of hand, but realized there was nothing they could do but keep working. After a busy day, they closed the shop at night. Ino showed Azusa her new supplement, made with fruit juice to counteract bitterness, but reminded her not to spoil the fun by talking about business. After all the guests left, Azusa noted they still had to clean up, but she was okay with it. They could rest afterward. She reflected on how her life had changed since being reincarnated and how much she enjoyed spending time with her family. Despite everything, she still longed for a peaceful life. The next day, Halkara told everyone the main event of the dance festival was about to begin, and they all got excited. Beelzebub said she would show them her demon dance, and Azusa wondered if she had nothing better to do. But Beelzebub told her to be thankful for the help she'd given the day before. Falfa and Shalsha thanked her for her support, and Beelzebub said they could always ask for her help in the future. Rosalie joked that Beelzebub couldn't resist them because they were just too cute. Everyone eagerly anticipated the festival, and Azusa thought about how, after 300 years of killing slimes, she finally had a family she could call her own. The next morning, they all wake up with Azusa greeting everyone. As Leica, the red dragon girl, is making breakfast, and Rosalie, the ghost girl, is setting the breakfast table. After Faltort, the blue dragon girl, arrives at the table, she gets a little lecture to wake up early, but after that, they all eat together. After having breakfast, Azusa requests Leica to accompany her to the southern forest today as Halkara, the elf apothecary, mentions that the weather is quite good today. In that case, Halkara decides to join them too. She wants to collect some herbs. At the southern forest, all three girls are shocked to see the field due to the fact that it is almost harvesting time. The crops are fully grown. They spot rice plants there, which reminds Azusa of her time in the world. Even red beans too, which are basically Azuki beans. That being said, they end up getting tons of red beans from there, and now Azusa is cooking something sweet, manju buns, for Falfa and Shalsha, slime spirits. They both are sisters. While they are sleeping along with Flatort, they all decide to cook without them. Not knowing that much of an idea about this dish, they all work together, but it turns out not good, which disappoints Azusa. Surprisingly, Flatort woke up out of nowhere and tried the dish, advising Azusa that cooking is all about repeating successes and failures. Hearing that, this time they all calmly recook again, and this time they are perfectly cooked. Falfa and Shalsha also woke up due to the amazing smell. Nervously, Azusa offers them to try one, and they can't help but jump with joy after eating it since it is so tasty. This makes Azusa's heart flutter. However, Halkara gives her an option to sell these while the small girls Falfa and Shalsha suggest making a face on it to make it look like a slime, which will be cuter look-wise. The next day, they open a stall and announce to the villagers of Flata that they're selling edible slimes. To promote it, they work on drawing the villagers' attention. Miss Natalie approaches their stall, noticing the Witch of the Highlands, Azusa. Seeing her, other people approach the stall too, and as they all take one bite of the manju buns, all the people go crazy and chaos erupts because everyone is now demanding boxes of it. After their successful sale, they all celebrate together. That is when Halkara comes with a plan to give a stamp for every purchase to get more repeat customers. It is the Goodly Goddess Virtue stamp card. Shalsha, knowledgeable about the topic, explains that the Goodly Godly Goddess is gaining followers by being known as the god you can actually meet. She's currently the most active person, hosting talk shows in every town. People who hear her kind words often experience small but meaningful miracles, like healing, getting into university, or even finding a lost sock. Such blessings that stick close to someone's daily life can be obtained. Halkara then interrupts that the godly goddess accepted her offer of collaboration for the energy tonics and got a stamp from her. When they realize she is having an event in the capital soon, Shalsha requests to go and Azusa couldn't deny it. Now, Azusa, Shalsha, and Halkara are in the capital. Rest didn't come along. Though Azusa is quite happy to see Shalsha being too excited and talkative, as it was her dream to attend an event like this. This makes her beyond happy. While attending the event, all the people wait for the appearance of the goddess. As soon as she appears on the stage, Azusa's eyes widen in shock. She is the same incarnation of the benevolent goddess who reincarnated her. On the stage, the goddess promotes her virtue of stamps. If someone has done something good, then they can draw a circle on one of the boxes themselves, or someone else can do that for them, though nothing will happen by doing this, but they will just gather virtues. Later on, one of her men calls Azusa backstage since the goddess wants to have a word with Azusa privately. Azusa is scared that she is done being immortal, and instantly as she greets her, she demands that she not make her leave this world, and she happily grants her wish, letting her live for another 3,000 or 30,000 years. Back on their way home, Leica picks them up, and Halkara, out of curiosity, wants to know what she talked about with the goddess, but she lies, not telling the truth. Azusa gets a flashback of the goddess telling her about being demoted. Her decision of reincarnating her and making her young wasn't considered good, and she was demoted to a local administrator, basically a reduction in rank. Though just for the bait of not telling her secret to anyone, she gave Azusa 2 circles. After getting back home, Shalsha and Falfa draw on Azusa's stamp card and draw circles and thank her for today. By seeing the Leica, Rosalie and Halkara also draw circles for her to express their gratitude towards her. As the virtue card is filled now, Azusa and everyone else decided to make their own virtue cards. While making these cards, Azusa can't help but feel blessed and grateful to have such a great family. Miss Natalie brings 12,000 gold compensation for the magic stones and informs Azusa about her edible slimes being sold again even today. She suggests to Azusa that rather than killing slimes, it's better for her to make a good living by focusing on the sweets. However, she also hands Falfa and Shalsha a letter from the World Spirit Summit. Later on, everyone in their house sat and talked about this matter. Falfa informs everyone that the spirits all around the world are gathering at Lake Nantera, and both the sisters are invited. Because they are spirits, they insist on going, yet Azusa can't leave them alone. So they decide, as a guardian is allowed, that as their mother she will go with them. On their way to the gathering, both the little girls enjoy the sandwich Azusa made for them, and once the journey is over, they arrive at Nantera Lake. They can't help but admire its beauty. Later that night, all the spirits gathered. Falfa, being Falfa, quickly begins to greet the spirits, while Shalsha, being an introvert, hesitates a lot, so Azusa goes along with her in order for her to interact with others. Shalsha greets them with her business card, and as a token of their acquaintanceship, she offers them her mother's edible slimes. This makes the other spirits pretty impressed, and they also greet her kindly, since she is a lot younger than them. Seeing her doing great, Azusa takes the initiative to introduce herself as well, and when she reveals she is the Witch of the Highlands, the spirits freak out because they always thought her existence was just a mere rumor. They also heard about her destroying the blue dragon, which is obviously a lie since Flatort apparently lives with her, so she clarifies that it is not the case. One of the spirits, Cumulonimbus, mentions the southern settlements, wanting to know if it is true. The volcanic and waterfall spirits agree that they heard it too, making Azusa realize that they actually love rumors. Azusa is waiting for the summit to start, but to her and her kids' surprise, the summit gets over instantly and the spirits disappear. Just then, a girl, a droplet spirit, Yufufu, comes out of the water. She is eager to know if they like the summit. But when Azusa complained that it wasn't a summit but just a bunch of spirits chatting, Yufufu explained that they used to have proper discussions in the past. But those lacking interest stopped coming, so now it is just spirits talking. The journey back home was long, and it was already late at night, so Yufufu offered to stay over at her house for the night. After a little hesitation, they arrived at her house. The kids eventually slept, and Yufufu then handed her honey water and confessed that she sent the letter for a reason. She was interested in Azusa. She acknowledged the fact that Azusa took so many girls as family on the highlands. They relied on her, but there wasn't anyone she could rely on. Azusa admitted that she never actually found someone to rely on. That being said, Yufufu, with her motherly nature, hugged her and assured her that she was there for her as her mom. The next morning, Azusa wakes up with the voices of Falfa and Shalsha. She walks down to the breakfast table and gets embarrassed when the kids point out her drenched clothes, but Yufufu clarifies it because of her. She is a droplet spirit, so when she hugs someone, that person gets drenched with water. Pressing forward, Yufufu bids them farewell, and Azusa leaves the place with her heart filled with joy. She finally found a mother figure after 300 years. Upon reaching home, guests arrived at the cottage of the Highlands, Vania, Fatla, and Beelzebub, along with Pecora, the Demon King. Pecora arriving there was shocking, but she arrived there because of Azusa's edible slimes. They reached Vansdesla Castle too. Pecora also lets her take the cookies she made for the first time, and when she approves, they all decide to get going. They actually came here for some work, looking for an undead. Although they are kind of in a gray zone to be called demons, they are not managed by human society, so the demons are sheltering them. According to Beelzebub, if humans find the undead, they will be disgusted with said undead, or worst case scenario, burn them. Now, the Demon King insists Azusa help them find the guy. At first, Azusa denies, but when she sees her daughters with pitiful eyes, she agrees to help. Cleverly, they distribute pamphlets about finding the undead and obtaining compensation. Although it has been afternoon, nobody has informed them yet about anything. Out of curiosity, Azusa reads the signs of an undead, which are they don't age and don't count as dead or alive. Reading this, she recalls that she heard from the spirits at Lake Nantera talking about these rumors. Vania, Fatla, and Beelzebub, along with Azusa, arrive at the southern settlement. They spot a house of a girl, Pondeli, where an old lady delivers her fruits. After she leaves, they smartly encounter her, but she isn't ready to meet them, which makes them doubtful of her, that she is the undead, but she clarifies that she is a cemetery guard. Though she ends up confessing that she is an undead when Beelzebub threatens her to prove she isn't guilty by undergoing a purification spell. Pondeli confirms that before being undead, she was living alone in the royal capital. Hating work, she spent her time alone and ended up dying of starvation. Then, after she died, as she bathed in moonlight, she became undead. Now, she is happy with her life, not actually working and watching over a cemetery, but a void remains in her heart. She has no one to play games with. However, Beelzebub informs her about demons taking her into custody. This makes her anxious due to the fact that she doesn't have the urge to work, so Azusa comes up with an idea to transfer Pondeli to the demon realm and open a gaming shop. This way she will enjoy her work, won't be lonely, and will be in the custody of demons. This solution makes everyone satisfied. Azusa and her family came to the capital of the demon realm, Vaynald Castle Town. They visited the game-loving undead, Pondeli, who had founded a gaming shop. She has introduced a fight card game, which right now, Leica and Helkara are playing very seriously. This makes Azusa realize that Pondeli has matured a lot. But for Pondeli, she is doing the work she loved, the same thing she did back at the cemetery. Though Fatla and Vania praise her for working really well, she has been paying their taxes too. Spotting Falfa and Shalsha, Azusa wonders where Beelzebub is, though Fatla and Vania inform her that she is out for some ministry work, and they have to head for the agricultural ministry also. However, Azusa can't imagine that girl working seriously, yet indeed, according to them, she is quite focused when it comes to her work. Noticing her doubts, both the girls offer Azusa to see Beelzebub work secretly. At the Ministry of Agriculture, Azusa uses her invisibility magic to disappear, while Fatla and Vania guide her to Beelzebub. As soon as Azusa enters the office, it reminds her of her past life, where she died of workload. But then she spots Beelzebub talking to one of her managers and employees too. She looks quite serious, and then she approaches Fatla and Vania since Vania made some mistakes in her work and questions Fatla about how the kids are doing. She means Falfa and Shalsha. Later on, in her office, Fatla and Vania with Beelzebub are working for quite some time now, and Azusa is bored now and hungry. Instantly, Beelzebub mentions that her room feels unusual and points out where Azusa is sitting, declaring that place feels the most weird. But Vania gives excuses that they changed the setting so it might be the reason. Her attention shifts when the bell rings, it's lunchtime. When Vania brings the lunch, it has 4 lunch boxes, which makes Beelzebub more doubtful, but she plays along. She quietly, with a grin, listens to her secretary's lie, but as soon as she pretends to give the lunchbox to some employee, Azusa shows herself, begging Beelzebub to not give it to anyone else. This revelation makes Beelzebub chuckle. She already knew something was off. After getting back from work, Azusa tells everyone how serious Beelzebub was at work. Meanwhile, Beelzebub wins Falfa and Shalsha's hearts after bringing them so many souvenirs. When Beelzebub mentions her mansion, Azusa roasts her for lying. But they end up visiting a house, which is actually a millionaire's house. Beelzebub walks them through the dining hall, and then they all sit at the huge dining table. When Beelzebub decides to bring them tea, this makes Azusa suspicious, and she points out in front of everyone that in big mansions like this, maids are supposed to do all this work. This makes Beelzebub confused. Everyone agrees with Azusa and demands a tour of the mansion, calling all of it bad hospitality. However, when the kids run towards the rooms, Beelzebub immediately stops them, lying that they might get lost. Not having much of a choice, she lets them have a tour of the first floor and tries to send them back to the demon realm. But obviously they all don't leave, pointing out that still the second and third floors are left. Hearing that, the little girls again try to run out and see the second floor, but panic washes over Beelzebub's face and she stops once again. This time, she couldn't stop them and they ended up arriving on the second floor. As the kids open the door of one of the rooms, their eyes widen in shock. It is all dirty and looks like it has been closed for years. Beelzebub confesses to everyone that it is really her mansion. But since it is so huge, she finds it impossible to manage it. It is too much for her, so she only uses some rooms on the first floor. She was a commoner, and when she was appointed as the minister by the Demon King, this mansion and title were given to her. Azusa now understands why Beelzebub was so reluctant to invite them, but Leica finds it a waste to not use such a magnificent place properly, so she decides that they will clean the place, with Flatort by her side as she challenges her. Who cleans more first? At first she wasn't into it, but when she got provoked, Flatort took it as a serious challenge and ended up being a part of it. However, their attention shifts when they notice that Shalsha and Falfa are missing. They wanted to take fresh air in the garden, but the garden is more like a forest now, and they are nowhere to be found. Before they enter the forest, Beelzebub informs them about plants that eat animals inside. This scares Azusa. Inside the forest, with urgency, Azusa is searching for her kids and encounters a monster, which scares her more for her children. She sees a grass talking to her, but the grass runs away, sensing she is a witch. Unexpectedly, Beelzebub finds them and reunites them with their mom. Back at the mansion, Faltort and Leica are fighting about who did a good job with the cleaning. Meanwhile, the kids apologize for going too far. Inside the forest, the grass turns out to be a half-human who is scared that the witch might actually kill her. Azusa praises Ino's shop, saying that it's a big achievement to get this back in the grotto, and that it's all the fruit of her hard labor. Ino tells her that it's all thanks to her because she would have still been cooped up in the grotto otherwise. She tells Azusa that she owes her a lot. Halkara observes some pills, praising their use around the house as Ino scolds her for stealing her idea. Halkara screams that she was looking at as a reference, but Ino says that it's called stealing someone else's idea. The two of them start bickering with each other, and Azusa steps in and stops them from fighting further, saying that she won't ask them to get along, but they should at least stop fighting. Ino starts telling Azusa about the Mandragora tablets that she had asked for and presents the ripe Mandragora tablets to her, which surprises Azusa. Ino explains how normal ones are made from a 3-year-old Mandragora, while these are made from a 10-year-old plant, and that it's very rare. She tells them that one day, she will make even more amazing stuff using a 300-year-old Mandragora. She tells them about how it is incredibly rare, how Mandragora can adopt human language, start moving around, and how catching one is a witch's ultimate wish. Just then, Halkara tells her about seeing something like that in Beelzebub's garden, leaving Ino in complete shock. Azusa tells her that it's private property. Halkara adds how Beelzebub's garden is more like a forest now and that anything can be there. Ino immediately closes her shop and rushes ahead to get the 300-year-old Mandragora. As Halkara and Azusa talk about the medicine procedure, Halkara tells her that sometimes they have to crush the whole plant. Upon realizing this, Azusa rushes to wake Flatort up, asking her to take them to Beelzebub's garden. Flatort groans and complains about being disturbed from her nap, but eventually gives in when Azusa promises her dessert later. Upon reaching, Beelzebub tells them that they are ahead of Ino. Azusa tells her that she wants to shelter the Mandragora from Ino. Suddenly, loud voices interrupt them as they go outside and find Ino with all the witches from different regions barging in to take the 300-year-old Mandragora. Ino declares that she will obtain it even if it means breaking the law. Beelzebub tells them to go home, but they break down the door and barge into her garden, trying to find the Mandragora. The three of them, Azusa, Halkara, and Flatort, run after the witches, saying that they have to find the Mandragora before them. Azusa tells them to be careful as Halkara gets stuck in branches that start dissolving her clothes. Azusa pulls her out and shelters her. Halkara uses her elf sense to tell Azusa that there's no sign of the Mandragora because the moss doesn't let anything pass by, and the tree roots are also hard, making it difficult to move underneath. Azusa comes to the conclusion that they can pinpoint the location where the trees don't grow. She praises Halkara for her forest knowledge as they make their way forward, with Ino trailing behind them and following their lead. They reach the place, and Ino comes from behind, stating that she will steal anyone's idea if it means catching the 300-year-old Mandragora. Ino calls all the witches around to gather in the area, as Halkara suddenly screams, calling out to the Mandragora. She yells that if the plant is listening to her, she should jump towards Azusa and that she will save her. The plant comes out from underground and jumps toward her. Everyone gets a guilty look on their faces upon seeing the cute girl who emerges. Azusa asks Ino if she really thinks it's right to turn her into medicine. Azusa admits that she can't hurt her after seeing her, and Azusa found her first anyway, so it's not right to take the Mandragora. The plant snickers and gives her one leaf from her head as a reward, and Ino, surprisingly, gets happy with just the leaf. Just then, Beelzebub hands her the bill for compensation for trespassing on her property. Halkara declares that the case is solved now. Azusa asks the Mandragora if she wants to come live with her. The plant tells her that she doesn't like wolves as they pluck all the plants. But even with that, Azusa takes the plant home with her, naming her Sandra. She makes Sandra meet Falfa and Shalsha and introduces Sandra as their younger sister. They all start eating dinner as Sandra reveals that she only needs water and that she will eat through photosynthesis. The sisters refuse to eat their vegetables even when Azusa asks them to. Sandra tells her that their vegetables are not yummy enough, leaving Azusa in sheer shock. She says that Sandra has not eaten the vegetables and asks how she can say that they're not yummy. Sandra replies that she has been a plant long enough that she can tell just by the looks. Azusa frustratingly says that she is not helping her by saying that because her daughters will not eat their food that way. Sandra comes up with the idea and says that she will help them harvest new vegetables, and they will be yummy. The next day, they start harvesting new vegetables under Sandra's orders. She becomes surprisingly strict about which vegetables to pick, judging each one with her plant expertise. Halkara struggles with pulling out the bigger turnips, while Shalsha complains about the bugs. Falfa gets distracted chasing butterflies as Sandra sternly reminds them to focus. When the new dinner made from the vegetables is served, both the sisters and everyone in the household enjoy the sweetness of the vegetables, which makes Azusa very happy. Azusa praises Sandra and thanks her, then she takes Sandra into her lap and hugs her, saying that they have one rule in their household, to never stop smiling. Sandra also breaks out in a subtle smile,